I was on with Wes at Thinking Critical talking about the story of John Ridley coming in to do a Batman limited series. What's weird is I think reading the comments that video got, and then also just seeing how some of the other news is reporting on this, people are making wild leaps of assumptions when really this story is not that substantial. So let me kind of rephrase what we exactly know, and then draw a hard line, and then do some predictions. Hey everybody, this is Perch. There's been a lot said about 5G, John Ridley, Batman, changing up of characters, this idea, and there's been so many videos, so many articles written that a lot of people have lost sight of where this all began. A lot of it began with some articles that Bleeding Cool wrote, which were, I think at this point, because enough time has passed, you can say with fact that they were wildly inaccurate. Either they were complete made up, or maybe a source was telling them incorrect information, or maybe if Bleeding Cool would have you believe that this was always the plan, but then the plan changed. But these articles now are all written kind of dragging all of that old history into onto the table. And A, most of that history doesn't apply anymore, and B, much of that history may never have applied. It may have just been completely made up. So let me go to just kind of the facts of what's happening, because again, there's this Hollywood Reporter article by Jim Lee, and there's a bunch of different quotes in that article. Jim Lee is giving this interview talking about the future of DC. He's talking about still publishing comics. There's no pencils down notice, that they're still very much in the business of making comics. Sandwiched right in the middle of this article is kind of like a line, a single line. He's talking about himself and everything else. And so last week, a lot of the news was around, even the questioning. What about the rumor that AT&T hates comics and wants to get out of the comic business? And Jim Lee said, I don't think they want us to stop us from publishing comics. Comics serves a lot of different purposes, and it's a great way to incubate ideas, creating great franchises. We want to continue that. Why would you stop that? He's giving a basic answer, but people seize on little words. Like he said, I don't think they want us to stop us from publishing comics. And people jumped on we said, I don't think. He didn't say they won't. So I mean, you could play gotcha with any kind of word anywhere. So anyway, the whole article kind of goes on, and the article itself with the Hollywood Reporter was heavily edited, as you see at the bottom. You got to kind of read things, but it's it's all right there. So as part of kind of this interview, this piece that gets pulled out is that here's the exact word. And notice that already in the article, they're pulling a bunch of pieces together. Yes, there will be more Batman. John Ridley, who won an Oscar for penning 12 Years a Slave, is writing a Batman miniseries. Quote, it will have a huge impact on the rest of the line, unquote, Lee says. And there will also be the return of Milestone, a label that features underrepresented heroes and creators. So first off, that's one paragraph, and they're connecting a lot of dots that don't necessarily connect. So yes, John Ridley, who's written comics before, written The Authority, he's got a couple, he's done stuff in and around. He has the other history of the DC universe coming out. He's a creator that DC is going to work with. I hate to draw this comparison because I think it leads people down an accurate path, but it's not unlike Marvel going out and working with Ta-Nehisi Coates, where you have a relatively famous person outside of comics. They're coming in, they're going to do some projects. I think he is a better example because he's got some ongoing work that he's doing, as opposed to, say, J.J. Abrams and Son, who came in to do this one limited series. But in many cases, the John Ridley situation is closer to that Abrams situation than the Coates situation because, and that's the next line, he's writing a Batman miniseries. Now, to be clear, that's a Hollywood Reporter's words, not Jim Lee's. And other reporting, what we've heard is that this is going to be a limited series set in the Batman universe. Now, notice how those two phrases are completely different. Writing a Batman miniseries or writing a miniseries in the Batman universe. Those are two different things. Now, this is where the earlier reporting from Bleeding Cool kind of comes into play, and it's really shaded the entire issue, because Bleeding Cool reported that as part of 5G, they were going to retire all of the current heroes, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Batman, that Batman would be kind of retiring out of commission. Luke Fox would be taking on the mantle, and he would be the new Batman, written by John Ridley. Well, obviously, a lot of those things didn't happen. We didn't get 5G. We're not getting all the heroes rebooting. And frankly, it's pretty clear we never were. You talk to enough people at DC, the idea that everything was going to come to a screeching halt and forever be changed it seems like there's very little truth in that. Now, of course, I'm not sitting in the DC rooms. Maybe there was some plan pitched at one point, but everything we heard about 5G was as a short, limited series like Future's End like thing, Age of Apocalypse like thing, where we got to see a new kind of generation of DC heroes. If you just stop for a moment and just think logically, forget all the go woke, go broke, all the kind of angry videos you've seen, just put those aside for a minute. Just think. Comics have done this peak at the next generation many, many times. It's something they've done plenty. So the idea that they would do it again, not surprising at all. Going back to this, but that doesn't mean that they were going to completely tilt the entire line. That seems unlikely, particularly when you see things like death metal, when you see things like the White Knight universe and kind of all the things they're doing with Black Label. The idea that they're going to upend everything feels very unlikely. And some people have fiercely argued, no, that's really their plan. But keep in mind, your source is Bleeding Cool, who's reporting a rumor that has at many times over the last 6 months been absolutely debunked. Big parts of it have been proven wrong, but we're still hinging on this core fact that got rolled out that was never a fact. If you go back to the Hollywood Reporter article, then he says, Jim Lee says, this miniseries, the one written by John Ridley, that's supposed to feature Luke Fox, although keep in mind, we don't hear specifically that it's Luke Fox. That's a rumor from a different time. All we know as facts is that John Ridley is writing something in the Batman universe. It is a miniseries, and Jim Lee's exact quote, "It will have a huge impact on the rest of the line." Now, we don't know what huge impact from the rest of the line actually means. But again, everybody's mind jumps once again to that old Bleeding Cool article of like, oh, they're going to replace Bruce Wayne with Luke Fox. Now, the odds of that are beyond small for many, many reasons. And the biggest one of them all is that AT&T and Jim Lee, in this same article, talks about AT&T and Warner Media and the movies needing to have a closer alignment to the comics. Why is that significant? Because we have a Batman movie coming out with Robert Pattinson. He is Bruce Wayne. He is not Luke Fox. So this idea that we get in this exact same article, all of these comments about how we're going to get closer to Warner Media, we're going to have a more concise view, we're going to work in more alignment, the DC universe is going to be tightly integrated with HBO Max and all the rest. If you take, and there's paragraphs and paragraphs of that, what do you see in DC in 2 years? You're going to see more international content. You're going to see more digital content. You're going to see alignment across business units. That's what's being said. So if you take all those statements and true, and you kind of should, because that's what's in this article, then if you come up here and make the assumption, oh, and by the way, even though I said all those things, John Ridley is coming in to do a mini-series, not even an ongoing, not the primary Batman series, coming to do a mini-series, and he's going to change Batman into a completely different version of the character. Does that make sense to anyone? Do you think that Warner Media is teasing us with Patterson and that we're actually going to get, I don't know, pick an actor. You're going to get Michael B. Jordan. You're going to get that they're going to go out and cast Michael B. Jordan and surprise us in the film that you think it's about Patterson and Bruce Wayne, but it's actually Michael B. Jordan and he's going to be Luke Fox. Does that make any sense with everything we've just read? But there's people in the comments who have taken the Bleeding Cool articles as fact. And Bleeding Cool continues, by the way, to push this, because if there's one interesting thing about Rich Johnson, he hates to admit when he's wrong, and he guesses at things all the time. But, he talks about, we broke the news that Bruce Wayne to be replaced by the son of Lucius Fox, Luke Fox, otherwise known as Batwing, that this would be part of an all-line-wide relaunch that saw DC comic characters age. And so if you look through all this, it makes pretty much no sense. And so they're still kind of hanging on to the story, but at this point, that's come and gone. The real head scratcher is why the fans are still hanging on to the story. It's clearly not the case. So I think, in conclusion here, the facts are a miniseries is coming out, set in the Batman universe. We expect it's by Luke Fox, but we don't have complete confirmation of that. And Jim Lee is saying it will have huge impact on the rest of the line, but in fairness, he says that about literally everything. He said that same comment about Joker War. He said that about Death Metal. He said that about Kelly Sue DeConnick changing Aquaman. What does huge impact on the rest of the line actually mean? I think it's very safe to assume that it's not going to mean that Bruce Wayne is somehow magically going away. John Ridley is going to write this miniseries, and then, suddenly Luke Fox is going to be the new Batman. I think there's just, people are like, well, prove that that's not what's happening. I can't prove that that's not what's happening, but it's a weird way to argue. You're taking a wild guess about something, and you're saying, okay, my wild guess is fact. Now, dispute my fact. That makes no sense at all. Anyway, what do you think? Are you buying this issue? John Ridley, he's written comics before and done a good job with it. Are you going to buy this? Are you excited about it? Where do you think it's going? Why not? If other people are doing wild conjecture, why don't you too? Let's hear what you have to say. Put it in the comments below. Like, subscribe, follow me on social media if you wouldn't mind. And if you want to get in touch with me there. But most importantly, well, one, thanks for listening. And two, just consider the source. That's all I'm saying.